Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today, I want to talk to you guys about why Chapter 16 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex has started planting more seeds for the eventual battle of Mamushi versus Ada and Daemon, and why, after long last, the stage appears to be getting set to see the full power of the original two cyborgs who Ishiki originally feared due to their combat powers exceeding Jigen, so much so that he ordered them to be destroyed, which is why in today's newest Naruto Explained video, I want to close out with what I say is a trilogy on Ada and Daemon and Sumire. That whole topic based off of the last chapter, though I will structure this video in a way where even if you haven't checked out the other two videos, you can still follow along, assuming of course the YouTube algorithm brought you here by suggested video. But if you've seen the other two videos, then some of the more subtle points in this video will definitely make a lot more sense to you. So jumping right into it, we have to first take a look at why in the last chapter it has set up this monster confrontation between these two parties, the sibling duo of Ada and Daemon versus Mamushi, and why the character dynamics between all three is something we really have to keep our eyes on, as well as the misdirections that the story is planting for us. We were giving a couple of big developments, which we will go over, because one of them was set to grab our attention and the other one was set to give us breadcrumbs for a potential subversion of expectations. And given how everything's going on right now in the manga, both of these appear to be linked together, and it is intentional. Think about it, how, say, Kawaki was shown being visibly uncomfortable when he learned Boruto survived getting killed, and the whole time that Boruto's brought back to life, we had our favorite Otsutsuki boogeyman Momoshiki right there gaslighting Boruto when no one was paying attention, or rather when nobody could pay attention to him. Eventually, those two things, they ended up boiling over simultaneously, and we ended up with this monster plot twist that we all know and love that is called omnipotence, which led to Boruto and Kawaki's lives being switched in everyone's memories, and we ended up with Boruto as a rogue ninja being accused of killing Naruto and Hinata, which, yes, he didn't kill them. I think we have something similar being built up here with the pending clash, and the telltale signs are there that this is going to be the case. We have a perfectly set up distraction right now in front of us with everything going on with Ryu and Matsuri in the Land of Wind. Just as during that whole omnipotence thing, we have the Spectre known as Code out there waiting to make his move from the shadows, because we knew he was building an army with the intention of attacking Konoha, but it took our eyes off of what was bubbling beneath the surface and caught most fans off guard when that moment finally arrived with omnipotence in Boruto, Kawaki, and Ada. The story, it wants us to pay attention to Sarada and Team Konohamaru being in the Land of Wind with the hidden Sand Village ninja. The story wants us focusing on the impending battle that is coming, and for good reason. It's going to be a really big deal given how strong both Ryu and Matsuri are, as well as give us a chance to continue getting information about Sarada and Mitsuki's current strength levels, which are sure to cause crash outs that rival the one that Class Rep had when she went off on Sarada for not taking her true feelings about Boruto into account when she hugged Boruto when he returned home. It's for good reason that our attention has been on that, and based on the community responses to the chapter, it looks like all of this did work. Everyone was more focused on the battle ahead, that Ada's reluctance to spy on the Shinju in real time and her fear to do so hasn't gotten the attention that it deserves by fans. Based on what Ada has said, it looks as if when you read between the lines, she attempted to spy on the Shinju in real time, a second time off screen, and she had the same thing happen as before. Mamushi was able to interact with her, and his aura was enough that she felt threatened by him, and she was practically begging for Shikamaru to not make her look into the Shinju at real time, because she was being blunt, just that spooked. In a way, it does make sense. For the longest time, she's been able to look in on those in her vicinity in the range of her senrigan without any issues. She could watch people, but they couldn't watch her back, and they didn't know that she was looking the entire time. Going back to when this first happened, who was the first person that was right there with Ada when she got spooked? It was Daemon, who was completely unaware of what happened to his sister that left her so startled as she was. It means that when she was viewing Mamushi, Daemon couldn't protect her, which means that Mamushi had Ada in a vulnerable position where there was no backup for a person who As she said, she does not like fighting. That was our foreshadowing that it doesn't matter if Ada dislikes fighting, she will be forced to fight again. And this time she won't have her brother there as backup to do the heavy lifting, because her brother, for as strong as he is, he can't attack something he doesn't know is attacking his sister. This is even more important when you realize how Ada has referred to the people that she uses as being shogi pieces. Now that also brings us to Daemon, based on how he was staring a hole into Sumire in the last chapter. It appears as if we might be in a position where our favorite pint-sized bully might have been paying way too much attention to Sumire, is appearing to show signs that she wasn't infatuated with Ada as she was appearing to be, and Daemon clocked that. For a girl who was supposed to be focused so much on his sister, she was having an open crash out over Sarada hugging Boruto, confessing her love to Boruto, and getting mad that Sarada didn't take her feelings into account when it came to the matters of her heart. While again, as I've said privately in the Patreon server, and if you watch that Daemon versus Sumire video, you know I've been of the belief for a while that Ada already knows in her heart that Sarada and Class Rep are not affected by omnipotence or by her charm, because she is smart enough to know they're the same thing. You can't be unaffected by the memory swap but then be affected by her charm, because she knows it's the same damn power. Whereas Ada appears to have had it click inside of her head in this chapter without a shadow of a doubt that Sumire and Sarada were lying, because she's written as saying, "Follow your heart, huh?" And her eyes, the way they are paneled, they are looking at Sumire in the distance, while Sumire is showing open discomfort and pain over what she did to Sarada. This is important to take note of, because Ada's original use of omnipotence was to do what? It was to control hearts, whereas she likely already suspected and has chosen to stay willfully ignorant that Sarada and Sumire were immune to more than just the memory swap, because she wants a true genuine friendship. Even if there are lies involved on the form of Sarada and Sumire, this is a slap in the face that she cannot ignore. This is her big sign that she does not control the heart, hence that word, "follow your heart, huh?" It's a question mark. Daemon also in the same chapter was looking at the two girls, and that is setting up for a perfect distraction on Daemon's part, currently the strongest person that we have on the good guy's side. If he pursues anything with Sumire while Sarada just happens to be away, it means that he will have taken his eye off the ball at the worst possible time, while pursuing what he would have a legit reason to think is a threat against his sister. As Shikamaru warned, do not let Daemon know you guys are immune. Notice Ada, as of this recording, doesn't appear to have ever told her younger brother about Mamushi being able to interact with her when she uses her senrigan to spy on the Shinju. That isn't a detail kept out for no reason. It's something that we will likely come back around to at some point, with her either telling him or being left in the dark. If it's the latter, then he's gonna likely run up on Class Rep, ready to start throwing hands to find out who else knows that she's immune to Ada's power, and to see if there are more threats to his sister. Even if it's just, say, Daemon, more than likely than not being an annoying little rat to Class Rep, pestering her the same way he does Kawaki. It's time away from his sister that might cause even bigger problems when he can least afford them to happen. It would make for a proper introduction, or rather, to be more frank, a proper reintroduction of Mamushi, the character named after the most dangerous snake in Japan, the pit viper that has high intelligence and patience to wait for its target before killing it, with the most dangerous venom of any snake in Japan that takes a long time for the poison to kill its target. This is that moment where if you want to have Mamushi do anything to Ada, you definitely do it when Daemon might have his attention pulled elsewhere. Whether it be Mamushi's able to attack Ada from within that shared space when she uses the senrigan in a way that causes her damage in that plane, but it affects her physical body, where Daemon can't protect his sister, potentially can't even transfer his reflection onto her even if he touches her, whether it be Mamushi getting the chance to physically confront her and it leads to a battle. There are a few different ways that you can really play this out. You could go the route of Ada, who has taken all this time to insulate herself with people who are strong enough to fight for, people like Kawaki and Daemon that she calls knights, a reference to shogi pieces, this might be the moment where she is forced to fight without the knights at her disposal. Daemon might not be able to physically interact with Mamushi if this happens, and Kawaki is currently seemingly getting his limiters removed by Amato. He is nowhere to be found. It would make for her to have to fight on her own right now without anyone to back her up. We know for a fact that she views fighting as being barbaric. That doesn't mean that she can't fight. The same with her combat ability. Her skill, being average in taijutsu, is just that, a skill issue, not so much a power issue. Rock Lee, for example, is more skilled in taijutsu than Sakura, but he isn't stronger than Sakura when she uses her Byakugo seal on lock. We did see some flashes that Ada might be downplaying her power and skill. Bug implied that she was lying when Code was told to her that she wasn't a good fighter, though I tend to be conservative and just say that again it's a skill issue, but based on her words, she both doesn't like fighting and in general, she hates the pain that comes with fighting. That is in character for her to say, and that's a big problem. It doesn't matter if you're strong. If you are mentally someone who has a low tolerance of pain, that's a big problem. It does not matter if you have the power to break my jaw if you punch me in the face. If a paper cut is going to bring you to tears because you have a low tolerance of pain. It is important to know not everyone Amato experimented on came from a shinobi background like Boro, Victor, and Koji as being Jiraiya's clone. Not everyone got beaten on a daily basis like Kawaki and Code as a part of their training with Jigen. More importantly, I do think it is worth noting that Ishiki is written as having said that he wanted Jigen to have all the cyborgs destroyed. That's a pretty big tell here, because cyborgs that had combat power that exceeded Jigen were stated to have existed. Amato said that there were several cyborgs. Several does not mean this monster number. I've seen people say maybe there's an army of 500 out there. That's not what several means. Several means anywhere from 3 to 7 in number. Just looking at what we know from the car inners, there were 3 who fit that description. Code with his Karma Seal and his awakened powers of Shibai and the ninja tech that Amato gave him exceeded Jigen in power. But Code worshipped the other Otsutsuki, and he had limiters placed onto him in order to be of service to Jigen, Ishiki's vessel, and ultimately Ishiki himself. There's no way in hell that Daemon would agree to something like that. And given that he has shown measuring Jigen's power against Code, something happened in the past for him to either be able to accurately measure Code's power without limiters against Jigen, which could be something as simple as a brief skirmish, or Daemon's sensory ability being able to measure power, like we saw when he sensed a great power inside of Himawari. However, that does bring us to Ada. Out of everyone there, realistically, she, when you really think about it, is the least problematic. Jigen as an Otsutsuki vessel is immune to omnipotence, which Ada had ever only used once before to have people fall in love with her and be her love slaves. That's not going to work on Jigen. As a vessel, his body is 100% Otsutsuki. He has no reason to fear a power that doesn't work on him. The senrigan is also useless if it comes to a fight, because we see with Kawaki when he uses Sukuna Hikona, the senrigan doesn't have perception like the Sharingan, where it can see the user when they're shrink down. By her own admittance, her taijutsu is simple, though again, we don't know what she compares simple to, but she also says she hates fighting and she hates the pain that comes from fighting. Logically speaking, when you look at the totality of evidence, Jigen has nothing to worry about from her. Even if she made the car inners into her simps, it doesn't mean anything when he's drastically stronger than all of them outside of Daemon. He had no reason to be concerned with her or her powers, particularly omnipotence that can't affect him and she can't even control. It's not a threat to him, and the same with the senrigan. She also would be of greater use to him because he could have her use senrigan to monitor people, in particular Amato, who we know that Ishiki never trusted. That's why I'm more inclined to think of this situation like, say, Sakura, a monster power that requires a clean full power hit to be effective, but potentially not having the skill needed to land the hit. But even that does have a question mark. The idea of her being forced to do the one thing that she has always hated, getting checkmated by someone made out of Bug's chakra, someone that Ada is written as having viewed as being a pawn, having him pin her down away from the protection of her other knights, that is something that holds a potential conflict. Doubly so if it puts Daemon in a position where if something happens to Ada, he ends up having to blame himself for focusing on the wrong thing at the wrong time. It would also make for a good chance to see both characters outside their comfort zone. One having to do the one thing she's always hated, which is having to fight and having a low tolerance of pain, and the other being forced to potentially use his full power for the first time in his life against an enemy who he had previously looked down upon. Just as the Mamushi pit viper pops out of nowhere to stalk his prey, I think the story is setting up for Mamushi to get his hands on Ada and eventually Daemon in a way that we don't expect to come, having it happen at the one moment where our attention is being pulled elsewhere like it's currently done. All the other Shinju, they've made direct contact with their targets, assuming Matsuri does engage with Konohamaru since they're in close physical proximity right now. The only one left is that pit viper Mamushi. Though that's just my thoughts on the matter. I am curious to see how you guys feel about this whole matter. While you wait for the newest Naruto Explained video, click here to watch this video from my Anime Explained channel where I discuss non-Naruto content, or if you just gotta watch something Naruto, check out this other Naruto Explained video.